All right, we're live. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Chandler. It's third episode of our Chandler Pride Project series. My name is Jude. I am the creative director with Chandler Pride. My pronouns are they, them, and I identify as pansexual, non-binary, and transmasculine. And today I am super excited to welcome Gage.
Hey everyone, my name is Gage. I use he, him, and they, them pronouns. You might know me by Gage Solander through other places or Solander says. I identify with the words queer, trans, gender punk, non binary, to name a few, disabled. And that's pretty much the first things about me.
Awesome. We're super excited to have you. My first question would be, what does gender punk mean to you? I haven't heard that
Oh,
identified.
yeah. That one is very niche. It's not a popular term at all. But for me, I found it online and it was a merging of what I feel like is my gender expression, which is very punk. And then putting that together with genderqueer and kind of having those both be a kind of rebellion against heteronormative gender expression and cisnormative gender expression. So,
That's awesome. I'm always excited to like talk to other people in the community because I get to learn a lot of stuff like that. Um, I I think that like punk style is super cool too. Did you used to like? I think you used to work at like Rocket a Go Go, right?
I haven't. I've been there a couple of times.
Okay.
I'm a big fan of the stuff that they have in their store. It's a really great, um, I guess, gently used or new like punk vibes kind of store.
Yeah, I went there for the first time recently, and I was definitely thinking of you, like in your style that I've seen on Instagram. It was super cool to check out. So if anybody who's
Yeah,
watching hasn't been there yet, if you're in the Tempe area, that's a must see. And it's also like more sustainable, because you can get some clothes that are secondhand or thrifted and reject the fast fashion industry.
yeah. Also vintage, great stuff that's vintage too.
It's super cool there. So tell me a little bit more about yourself. So you're graduating in like 2 weeks from Arizona State. So congratulations, first of all.
Yeah, thanks for that.
But yeah, tell me about what college has been like. What are the things that you're involved in?
Yeah, so I'm a conservation biology student with a minor in film production and a certificate in LGBT studies, graduating in 2 weeks. So that's awesome. I'll be doing my thesis for the Honors College as a short documentary about the experiences of trans and non binary students in the classroom and basically how their identity interacts with maybe how ready they are to speak to professors and classmates and how they interact with online resources and Zoom classes, and so I'm looking forward to that. Through the university, I've been really involved with a lot of the queer programs here. We have stuff like TransFam, which is the social and support group for trans students at ASU, and that was founded in 2017 when I was a freshman. And so I think I was one of the 5 founding like general members of that, and I'm always proud of that history and that they're still here. And then other groups like ASPEC Alliance, which is for ACE and ARROW students and agender students at ASU. And I founded that group last year. Um, the Rainbow Coalition is the biggest group that I've been involved in. They're the programming and advocacy coalition for queer students at ASU. And they are the umbrella organization that contains all of the different queer clubs. And I've been with them for about 3 years, but I ended up at Arizona State because I heard about them online and I read through their profile on the website and I decided I wanted to be a part of it. So I even volunteered with them my first year, even though I wasn't really working for them.
That's super cool. A lot you've been involved in a lot of things, and it's really cool to hear about all the different groups that there are at ASU for students who are in the LGBT community. Um, and those are definitely things that like I think if I was more comfortable when I had started out at ASU with my identities that I would have loved to be a part of. So I'm so glad that those things are going strong and that there are people like you that have been like really helping to build those up and like start new groups. So that's super exciting. Um, on that note, like, what do you like? Do you think Like, do you think that that sense of community or like establishing those groups is like important to the community, and why?
I think that the groups that I've been involved with that are the smaller ones like TransFam and ASPEC Alliance are the ones that I've personally seen the direct effects of what that space means to students, because with TransFam, I feel like the trans community on campus was really disorganized and all over the place, and we didn't really do anything together. There was no group specifically for us. There wasn't really a safe space for us outside of maybe a one-on-one with like a counselor or something like that. And so that space, when we first put it together, was kind of unheard of. And I think that there's always controversy around new groups forming and whether or not you need them. But as soon as it did form, it became like the place to go if you were a trans student at ASU, because you found instant community. And it was the one place that you could kind of like shrug off the weight of having to maybe feel like you have to perform a certain way to get gendered correctly, or that you have to dress a certain way. And that space has definitely blossomed into something really amazing for a lot of trans students. And I know that many of the students around me, my friends, I would never have known them if not for that group. And I would never would have been connected to university resources that could help me as a trans student without that group. And I'm sure that many other students who have been there also wouldn't have known about the resources we discussed in that space if it hadn't been for that space existing. And then, for Ace Spec Alliance, it's so rare to find any spaces for Ace or Arrow or agender students at all. And we were even followed by AVEN, which is one of the nationwide organizations for Ace people, because the organization existed and they thought that it was some sort of bigger than ASU organization, but really we're just small ASU. And so we had a lot of students come in and say how unexpected it was that there was a space for them. And hopefully that space will help to show that aphobia is just not okay at ASU. Whereas in the past, people maybe without seeing that visibility might have thought that this isn't part of the community and people aren't welcome here. And so might have been warded away by the aphobia that they saw or the lack of visibility. So
Yeah, I think in general, lack of representation or like conversations about ace, arrow, agender people is like prevalent in society. So, I mean, I can definitely see how like especially that group having that representation or place to go and a group advocating on their behalf at the university would be super important. So I think that's awesome. And I think that like in general, one of the things that Chandler Pride wants to support is having more resources for students, even at the K through 12 level as well in the Chandler area and in the Phoenix metro area, having more resources, having GSAs, like having that representation, that sense of community is super important so that, students can meet people like them so they know that they're not alone. That was something that I felt growing up a lot was like I didn't really know people like me, and I think I would have like come out sooner or like been a lot less ashamed of who I was if I had that sense of community and I met other people that were like me. So I definitely think that those groups are extremely important for like the safety, the well-being, the happiness of like the LGBTQ students at ASU and in the community in general in the area. Um, yeah, so that's something that we really want to work on, and I think it's super great that you've been involved in all those things. Um, Tell me a little bit more about your documentary.
yeah, so I attended a presentation in, I think it was 2019 in the fall, by Sarah Brownell, one of the faculty members at the School of Life Sciences here. And it was a presentation being done during, I think, Fall Pride Week. And so I attended to listen to what her research was about, because I didn't know research had been done at ASU about queer students. And so I went, and her study was about how queer students interacted with the different learning formats of classrooms at ASU. And so it was a series of surveys, the students filled them out, and then they got the results and brought them back to this presentation. And at the end of the presentation, she noted that like the representation in the study for trans students was very low. There was only one trans student out of the many students they interviewed. And they said they wish that they had more data and that more study had been done of how trans students interact with the classroom space and how they feel about their place in the classroom. And that was a real light bulb moment for me, because myself as a trans student, I was like, this would be so easy to just tell anyone about, because I know what it's like. My friends know what it's like. But my professors, my faculty members, staff don't really know clearly, and other students maybe don't know. And so from there, I went to my honors advisor and I told them that I wanted to do something about this and to somehow bring back some visibility on what it's actually like to be a trans student. And so we came up with the idea to do a short documentary where the students could directly say to the audience members what they actually felt about being a trans student, instead of having, you know, survey results being interpreted by me, being interpreted by faculty, because I wanted them to be able to speak directly how they felt. And so that's where the documentary format came from. And we interviewed a bunch of students, and now it's coming together, and eventually some people will see it publicly. So I'm looking forward to hopefully some change coming out of the right people seeing that documentary and understanding what trans students are still struggling with at ASU, but also the spaces where things have gotten better.
I think that's a great documentary topic, and I'm super excited to see it when it comes out. Do you know where we might be able to watch it when it's ready?
I'm not 100% certain because I don't know how long it will take for me to bring it to YouTube. But my plan is YouTube eventually. And I know that there's some small student film festivals that I might bring it to, depending on how confident I feel about the film. Um, but we'll see. Yeah.
That's awesome. I'm going to share a link to your channel in the chat
Oh, awesome.
because in general, I think it's a great resource if you want to learn more about being queer, being LGBTQ plus. You talk about lots of different cool topics on your channel, and so in addition to possibly being able to see the documentary there, if you subscribe, you can already check out a lot of the content that Gage has on his channel because it's really cool. Um, I make like similar content, but you post like way more frequently than I do. So you have like a great library of videos that are up there. Um, what I'm curious, like was it a hard decision for you to make like when you like think about maybe when you were like first deciding if you were going to share your story online, like if you were going to like talk about your identities and be public about it? Was that like a difficult decision to make? And like what is your sort of motivation for sharing your story?
I think the weird thing was that at first it was mostly for myself. It felt like it was 50% for myself, because I do a lot of documenting the things that I do day to day, like journaling, scheduling. I write everything down because I forget everything. And so half of that was I wanted to have a record of how I was feeling at different points in time and what I was thinking about, so I could go back and experience myself talking about those things while also giving advice to people who might have been my friends back at home. And with the amount of people that I know in a lot of different states, it made sense to be able to update them through videos that could connect all of us, even though we're not in the same place. But then from there, I think it changed a little bit because I realized that I could actually use my channel to prevent some of the things that happened to me from happening to others by educating other people, and through word of mouth, kind of hoping that other people learn about allyship and learn about trans people and queer people and anything that I really wanted to talk about, to try to create some sort of positive space and positive learning experience for people who could actually do something to make a difference.
That's awesome. Um, I think that it's like, I mean, I know you said that you were doing it like halfway, partially for you, like kind of just to like document your experience and to be able to go back on it. But I think that it's super courageous of you to like be sharing your story online. And like as someone who like also does that, it's like it's not lost on me that like can be hard sometimes, but I also agree that it's like really rewarding. It's connected me with like so many cool people online. um, and like I'm creating this like really awesome community of people who are like me. And I really love that. I kind of see it as like paying it forward a little bit too, because like if it weren't for people sharing their story online, like on YouTube or
For
Instagram,
sure.
I wouldn't have like found like I probably wouldn't have come out, to be honest. So um
Yeah,
like that's I kind of like see it like I'm telling my story so that like other people can kind of go through that journey too and like not feel so alone. Um we have a question in the chat actually.
oh really?
Um so where someone's wondering, how has art helped you?
Art. um I honestly don't do that much art, but I used to a lot before I came to university. I painted a lot more frequently than I do now. um I did a lot of sketching, and I do a lot of things here and there that are relatively creative, like little doodles and like artists tied to graphic design. There's a lot of graphic design we do through the Rainbow Coalition. And so I found that as a good outlet to channel some creativity. And if you would consider these videos to be art, then definitely art has helped me because it's an outlet for thoughts, it's an outlet for feelings, and it's a good way to connect with other people because art is something that I think people can emotionally connect with a little bit easier than maybe writing or film, because if you have something visual that you can look at and experience, if it's visual art, then that's a much more accessible way for people to get connected to you and your feelings, and for you to connect with them and their feelings, and then through the internet, of course, interact based on that.
I 100% agree. Art has definitely helped me express myself, and I love it when I see like queer artists making art about their experience and their identities. It's like it's such a unique way to like understand somebody and their experience of the world. um, the chat saying yes, 100% videos are art. So so yeah, and I would definitely agree with that statement too. It's definitely like a really unique art form, like visual and audio, and getting to edit things together. Do you have a favorite part of making videos?
My favorite part of making videos is probably when I've already put up a video that I've edited, and I can go back and, I get the little notification in the top right hand of my YouTube channel, and it says someone left a comment, and I read it, and it was someone saying that this was either helpful, or that, this made them think about something differently, or maybe they just appreciated the fact that the video exists, which is a lot of the comments that I get these days, which is, thanks, I'm so glad this video exists, or I can't believe there's someone who has a similar experience to me. And I think that's the one thing that really makes it worth it, is seeing that it actually matters to somebody, and that somebody might have actually needed what came out of that video.
Yeah, I think that that's one of the best things about it for me too, is like knowing that it was helpful for someone. Um, Shifting gears a little bit, so I know that you're not from the area. So if you could talk a little bit about like where you're from, and if you notice any differences like when you moved out here, and like also, what made you come out to Arizona and stuff like that.
Yeah, so I'm actually from Grand Rapids, Michigan. It's kind of close to Lake Michigan on the west side of Michigan. My family is British Finnish. My mom's family is British. My dad's family is Finnish. Um, and so that's an interesting mix. um, when I was growing up, I lived in I wouldn't say it was a conservative town. I wouldn't say it was a non-conservative town. It was kind of a gray area. And I know that there was a lot of people who were queer but didn't say so. And so many of us found out that we were all queer after we graduated high school, and we just didn't know the entire time. but I think it was relatively clear if you look back at our photos. Um, throughout high school, I think I was really involved in art in a way that I wasn't now, where I did a lot of painting and a lot of sketching and drawing. Um, I believe that I did some sculpture. I used to like doing wire sculptures, and that's something I'd love to get into again someday. But I had a difficult time at home with family, and it wasn't a very trans friendly space. It wasn't a very queer friendly space. And so I think I looked a lot for a way to escape that. And university was one of those ways where I decided I definitely didn't want to be in the same state. And so I kind of did a more sophisticated version of running away, which was applying to a university out of state so that I could move out here to Arizona from Michigan. Um, and so that's how I ended up here. And, you know, there are some things that come along with that, which is realizing that moving to a different state doesn't make your problems go away. But yeah, I think there's sometimes when trans folks who have a difficult time growing up with family don't really think about their future. And so when they have the opportunity to take a next step, they realize they didn't have a plan, you know? And I realized I didn't have a plan when I came to Arizona. My plan was really just to hopefully get away from that situation and then end up here. But then it was like, now what? But the good thing is I ended up finding the right people in the right space when I got here. So that's a plus.
I'm glad that you found like a community in Arizona that could help support you, but it's definitely hard, um, when your family and like the people that you grew up with, they're not necessarily like supportive of who you are. I think that's one of the things that can like make or break a person's experience. I think if they're LGBTQ plus. Um, I'm really glad though that like that things worked out for you once you moved. And it seems like, now that you've got all these like, different clubs and organizations on campus, and all of that support, hopefully that's like made things a little bit better.
Yeah, I definitely say that it would have made things better. Um, if the organizations hadn't existed when I got here, I feel like I wouldn't have chosen Arizona State anyways, because having seen what was available here online was really what brought me to the campus to begin with. I remember this one time when I visited the campus, I think in 2 years before I came here, I saw I had gone on a trip here to tour the campus with my family, and it was Trans Awareness Week, the first week that I ever visited ASU. And so I saw the painted mural in front of one of the student buildings that said Trans Awareness Week, and I think that's the moment that I knew that I had to be here, because the fact that they could so visibly support trans students meant a lot.
Mhm. Yeah, definitely. Seeing those things around campus is like really important to me too. Um, we got another question for you from the chat. Um, so do you obviously like, things have improved in your life and like in general for LGBT people in the US, but there are still a lot of things that we have to work on. Are there like problems that you like still foresee or that you experience and like things that you would want to see changed?
I think the most prominent issue in my mind right now is protecting trans kids from a lot of the laws that are happening and trying to get passed. Some of them, which unfortunately have been passed, like Arkansas. And that's terrifying because, there's been laws proposed even for trans adults that would restrict us from just living our lives and participating in sports and participating in healthcare and receiving the very basic things that we need. And so that's frightening for something like that to pop up so nationwide and so fast that all of these laws would be trying to be written at the same time.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. I think that's a super pressing issue. And we're not immune from it either. In Arizona, actually, there are like bills that have been proposed. So if anyone who's watching this is like looking for an action that you can take in order to help make the situation a little better, call your Arizona representatives, the people that represent you in the state capitol and make the state laws. They're trying to pass a lot of anti-trans bills, like right here in Arizona. So those are things that you can take action on right now. We're also trying to make sure that, the city council in Chandler has like passes, an anti-discrimination ordinance to protect LGBTQ plus residents of Chandler. There's a lot of things that we still need to push for in our local government and our state government. And I think that definitely one of the most vulnerable populations are trans people, trans kids, trans people of color. Um, we need to be really working towards making sure that, these discriminatory, just awful laws don't get passed. Um, but yeah, I think that that's a really scary thing for me to see that happening, all over the nation. Um, One last question before we wrap up. How do you engage allies, or what do you think is one of the best things that like an ally could do?
Hmm. For allies, I think, you know, there is pronouns, there is learning about different terms, and there's learning about different communities and learning about the ways that we do things. But I think there's a couple things that are really overlooked when it comes to giving advice to allies. And that is that your allyship, your approach to allyship really needs to be intersectional. So you can't look at, I think, LGBT people as just one isolated category, because really we're a part of many, many different groups of people. And so you can't really say, I'll just learn all the ways to be an ally only for LGBT people, and that will be good. I think that you need to learn to be an ally to BIPOC LGBT people, to disabled LGBT people, and by being an ally to other communities that aren't just LGBT, that inherently also helps you be a better ally to LGBT people. And so I would say that you need to learn more about communities outside the queer community too when you're looking to be a better ally. Because, for example, like advocating for indigenous land reclamation is also advocating for indigenous trans people and indigenous queer people. And so that's probably the one thing that I would say to do as an ally that tends to be overlooked, unfortunately.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And it's a great point to bring up. Like a lot of these things are all intertwined. They're not isolated. So if you are trying to like help out these communities or be a good ally, you really should be looking at the intersections of race, class, um, as well as, like the LGBTQ plus identities that people might hold. Um, so I think that that's a great point. Um, so just to wrap up here, I'm so happy that you were able to join us today for our third episode of Chandler Pride Project. Um, I want to thank everybody who's watching this, and also the people that are watching the recorded version on our channel. If you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, please do. Please share this with your friends, especially people who are in the Chandler community, or the greater Phoenix metro area. We really want to help connect more LGBTQ plus people. And Gage, I think you're doing a fantastic job at that already at ASU and in the Tempe area.
Thank
So
you.
yeah, thanks again for coming on.
Yeah, no problem. I'm glad to be here.
And if you aren't subscribed to Gage's channel yet, please go do that too. Um, Thanks so much, everybody, and have a great day.